The purpose of this three-part series of videos is to talk about how to keep a pitcher's shoulder healthy over the course of a baseball season. In part 1, I'm going to discuss the two main components that a healthy shoulder needs, that being mobility and stability. Now we know that the pitching motion is a full body movement and requires movement competence throughout many aspects of the body. But for this series we are only going to discuss the criteria of the shoulder girdle. The target audience is youth baseball players and the coaches of these teams, because I know that most youth teams do not have the luxury of having an athletic trainer or a physical therapist on staff as a college or professional team would. With that being said, my name is Devin Stanton. I'm currently an assistant strength coach at Exercise Bioenergetics under Coach Anthony Daisy, and I just finished up my baseball career as a pitcher for Georgia Tech. I played travel baseball since I was 8 years old. I've always been a pitcher. I played year-round, and unfortunately I spent a lot of time in the training room rehabbing a shoulder or an elbow injury. And so my goal for this video is to share some insight that I wish I knew when I was younger, and hopefully that will help keep your youth athletes healthy and on the field playing the game that they love. Now we are going to discuss shoulder mobility. Again, let me reiterate that in order to have an efficient pitching delivery, an athlete must possess sufficient mobility in all aspects of the body, such as the ankle, the hip, and the thoracic spine. But I'm just going to talk about the shoulder. In this context, the mobility of the shoulder can also be defined as the total motion. In 2002, Dr. Wilk introduced the concept of total motion as the sum of the degrees of external rotation and internal rotation at the glenohumeral joint. We can see that in this picture on the left. So maximum external rotation is when the arm is cocked back to the end range as if one was about to accelerate the hand forward to throw a baseball. And internal rotation is where the hand is toward the waistline just after ball release. So total motion is the sum of these two end ranges. In a different study done by Wilk and others, they found that pitchers who have a loss in total motion in their throwing shoulders compared to their non-throwing shoulders by just 5 degrees are 2 times more likely to sustain a shoulder or elbow injury. Also, Mike Reinold conducted a study and found that pitchers lose on average 10 degrees of internal rotation up to 24 hours post-pitching due to the eccentric muscle contractions that occur in the back of the shoulder with every pitch, which I will discuss in the next video. He also hypothesized that the pitchers may be more susceptible to injury if they continue to pitch with a decreased internal rotation and total motion of the shoulder. So the key take-home point here is that we have to make sure we are restoring this mobility throughout the season in order to keep the pitcher healthy. In my demonstration videos, I will show various stretches to restore internal rotation in a safe and effective manner. Now I'm going to discuss the second component, shoulder stability. First, let's look at a little anatomy of the shoulder and discuss how the shoulder maintains stability. The picture on the right shows the glenohumeral joint. We can see that the humeral head sits inside the glenoid cavity as a ball and socket joint. However, the glenoid cavity only covers about 1/3 of the humeral head. The labrum, which is also pictured, is a layer of cartilage. What the labrum does is it deepens the glenoid cavity and adds more surface area to provide more functional stability of the humeral head. Since the ball and socket joint provides the most mobility of all the joints in our body, having sufficient stability is equally important. That brings us to the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is comprised of 4 muscles: the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor, and subscapularis. The rotator cuff muscle's primary function is to provide dynamic stability of the glenohumeral joint. That is, to maintain congruency of the humeral head inside the glenoid cavity. In other words, the cuff muscles make sure the humeral head is not gliding into the walls of the cavity or the labrum when you move your shoulder for any type of movement, no matter how fast or how slow. It's important to note that during any type of shoulder movement, all four rotator cuff muscles are actively working cohesively to make sure the humeral head is set properly inside the glenoid cavity. Now, this can obviously be a very strenuous task during the act of throwing a baseball repeatedly at 100% effort. And I'll talk about this in the next video.